What's up guys, John here and welcome to Baltimore Retro Gaming. And today I got a pretty interesting import PS1 game, and that game is Biohazard. Yes, Biohazard. Now, for those of you that don't know, and I didn't even know this till after I bought this game, this is actually Resident Evil 1 over in Japan. And it's pretty playable over here in the United States, so let's check it out. Okay guys, so when I pulled out my Japanese PS2, I dusted it off and I threw in a copy of Biohazard. You know, the first thing that I noticed is that Raccoon City kind of like text on the bottom of the screen. And right then and there, I put two and two together and I pretty much figured out, along with a Google search, that this was actually, yes, Resident Evil 1. Well, the Japanese version of Resident Evil 1 anyway. But one of the things that really stood out to me when I first turned this game on is like the real cheesy, you know, kind of funny full motion video. And it really reminded me of like early full motion video games that were released on mainly the Sega CD. You know, the way that the operatives are kind of talking and introducing themselves and kind of like jumping around in kind of a weird way. It did remind me a little bit of Night Trap and, you know, games like that. And also the way it was presented, it also reminded me of like a cheesy B, like comedy horror movie. Although this game doesn't have very strong comedy elements, just the way the game was presented when I first turned it on, it seemed kind of comical to me. Just the way the dogs are out in the field and they're chasing them. And it's kind of funny because I never played Resident Evil 1 as a kid. I never did. I did play the hell out of Resident Evil 2. At least for, I think I went through the whole game with Claire, but I didn't play with the guy. But I did play through Resident Evil 2, but, you know, when this game originally released, I had not had a PlayStation yet, and I just never had a chance to actually, you know, play this game or relive it or anything. So, you know, this is a good opportunity for me to play Resident Evil 1, and it's pretty interesting because I'm not playing Resident Evil, I'm playing Biohazard. I mean, it's the same game, but I'm playing the Japanese version of Biohazard. And the way that this game is set up is pretty cool because it's all voice acted, it's English voice acted, and a lot of the text and menu system is in English. So I don't know for sure, but I am pretty sure this game is completely playable for me, you know, not understanding Japanese. So, you know, that's pretty cool. Anyway, let's get physical and let's crack open this game. Okay guys, so this is my Japanese copy of Biohazard. You know, I don't know what it was called in PAL regions. Maybe it was called Biohazard. Maybe it was called Resident Evil. I have no idea. I just know this is my Japanese copy. Now, if you notice on one side it says Biohazard and on the other side it's Japanese. And that's pretty cool. That kind of reminds me of the way that Sega Saturn made their cases so that, you know, us Americans, when we buy our imports, we can still actually read the name of the game on the shelf. But yeah, as you can see, this case has some wear. There's a little crack right here, another little crack here, and you know, it's missing a little piece of the plastic, you know, right here. But other than that, I mean, this game's in pretty good shape now. These, I believe, are early Japanese PS1 cases, whereas over here in the United States, we got those like long box cases for our PS1 games, similar to what we had for the Sega Saturn and the Sega CD. But I mean, these cases are well made. I mean, look, it even says PlayStation kind of like engraved in the plastic. Like, I wish that we would have got these over here in the United States and they would have just stuck with it. Like, I feel like Japan always gets the best stuff. But yeah, so, you know, you can lose the manual and it'll still look good in your shelf. I mean, you know, all the early PS1 games over in Japan look like this. Like, here's an example. And this one's in really good shape. This is a Twin B Deluxe. And, you know, same thing. This one actually smells like a pair of new shoes. This game here, like, it's like it smells like chemicals and plastic, but I love it. But anyways, guys, that's Biohazard. It's all in Japanese. Actually, I'll take the manual out. It's right here. And I don't know if there's a spine card in here. I don't think so. I don't know if these kind of games came with spine cards, whereas like the jewel cases I think did. If it did, I don't have it, but yeah, anyway, that's Biohazard. So let's look at the game. So what is Biohazard? I mean, look, we all know Resident Evil. We know this is a survival horror game, or at least you should know. It's a survival horror game where you have to figure out the mysteries of what happened and kind of, do puzzles along the way and control a character with tank controls and shoot enemies. Like, we all know this. At least you should if you've played any Resident Evil game. But, this game definitely stands out in the Resident Evil series. I mean, to me, other than the fact that the gameplay is the same, I mean, this kind of doesn't, at least aesthetically, feel like a Resident Evil game. I mean, it does, just not in the beginning. Like I said, the beginning of the game, it reminds me of like Sega CD, full motion video, like Supreme Warrior, Night Trap, that kind of thing. Now, I'm going to tell you guys this, and please don't hate me for this, okay? I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I am not the biggest fan of survival horror games. I'm just not. There's some great ones out there. I have certainly played some good ones. But it's just not my cup of tea. Like, I love my RPGs, my spaceship shooters, or my shmups, as the kids call them these days. But, survival horror is okay. I do play some survival horror games. I mean, there's some pretty good ones on the Ps1. The Ps2, like some of the rarest, most expensive games, like Kuon and Ruler Rose and stuff like that, Hunting Ground. There's some really expensive, rare, and sought-after survival horror games on the Ps2. As well as, the GameCube and the Wii. But we're not talking about the Wii or the GameCube right now. We're talking about Biohazard, the PS1 import from Japan for the PS1. Now, trying to find information on this game was a little bit challenging, so I'm just going to read to you some information that I pulled from Wikipedia, and hopefully it's pretty accurate. So, it says here on the Wikipedia website that Resident Evil, also known as Biohazard in Japan, is a survival horror game. We already know this. Developed by and released by Capcom originally for the PlayStation in 1996. Now, this was the first game in the Resident Evil or the Biohazard series, and it's Capcom's best-selling debut game with sales over 8.63 million. Damn, I guess that's pretty high for a video game. It's a lot of money. And the game's plot follows Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine, members of an elite task force known as STARS. What STARS stands for, I have no idea. But they pretty much investigate events that take place kind of like in the outskirts of Raccoon City, following disappearance of their team members, and that's why they kind of land in the middle of a field in a helicopter that leaves them there. So soon they become trapped in a mansion. That's where they run off to after they land in the field, and this mansion is infested with zombies and other monsters. The player, having selected either Chris or Jill at the start of the game, must explore the mansion to uncover its secrets. Now, I did notice in the game, if you choose Jill, I think it is, if you choose the woman, it's on easy mode, and Chris, it's on hard mode. I think I remember in the very beginning of the game, there was two, you can select either easy or hard. There was no medium difficulty. And sorry about the limited information, guys. It's kind of hard to find information on just Biohazard and not Resident Evil online. But that's the little information that I did find out about the game. And hopefully you learned something. Okay, guys, so this is the question. Do I recommend Biohazard on the PS1? Well, I mean, do you own a Japanese PS1? Or do you have a swap disc you can use to do the swap disc trick on your PS1? Now, if you answered yes to either of those questions, then yes, I do recommend you get this game, even though it's Japanese and it wasn't released in North America. Now, under normal circumstances, a game like this, not being an arcade-style game, I wouldn't recommend it. But the fact that this game is voice-acted in full English, and there's a few other import games for the PS1 that are as well, but the fact that this one is, and the fact that the menu systems are primarily in English, I mean, I'm fairly confident you can play through this whole game and get through it, without, the need to read, text-heavy, Japanese and stuff like that. Another thing, too, is the price. Now, by no means is Resident Evil on the PS1 an expensive game. It might go for $20. I think it goes between like $10 and $15. But I picked this up because it was in the scratch and dent section of my local video game store. I always talk about my local video game store and the scratch and dent section in that store. And this game might have been like $5. So, I saw it was an import, and they always have imports in there. And I saw the survival horror, text that says survival horror at the bottom of the box. So I saw that. And like I said, I'm not a huge survival horror fan. But I figured for $5 or whatever, I would give this a shot, and then I was soon surprised to learn that, yes, this is Resident Evil, so this is the same game. But, it's pretty cool for me because I never played Resident Evil as a kid. Like I said, I played Resident Evil 2, played the hell out of that game. but never Resident Evil 1. And because of my love for Japanese video games, this is a cool way for me to experience a PlayStation 1 timeless classic. Well, guys, thanks for watching. Now, remember to like this video. Remember to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, guys, peace out.